First contact and fatal assumptions. The Galactic Federation had existed for over 10,000 years, uniting thousands of worlds across 3 spiral arms of the Milky Way. Their technology was advanced beyond comprehension. Antimatter drives propelled their ships between stars, energy shields protected their worlds, and terraforming machines could transform barren rocks into paradise planets within decades. Their military might was unquestioned, with warships the size of small moons and weapons that could crack planets. When their deep space sensors detected the faint radio signals from a small blue world at the edge of the Orion Arm, the Federation's council merely noted the discovery and assigned the planet, designated M3291. Though its inhabitants called it Earth, the lowest priority classification, pre-emergence civilization. In the grand chambers of the Council's meeting hall on Centaurus Prime, High Chancellor Xerax, a tall crystalline entity whose body shimmered with internal light, addressed the gathered representatives. "Another primitive world has been detected," Xerax announced, his voice resonating through the chamber. "Initial observations show a carbon-based species that has achieved rudimentary spaceflight and basic digital technology. They appear to be in the early stages of their technological development." Strategos Vex, the Federation's military commander, a massive reptilian creature with iridescent scales and cybernetic enhancements covering half her body, barely glanced at the holographic display showing Earth rotating slowly in the chamber center. "Hardly worth mentioning," she said dismissively. "Their fastest ships would take decades to reach even their closest neighboring star. Their weapons are chemical projectiles and crude nuclear devices. Their energy production relies primarily on burning fossilized organic matter." The Council's laughter echoed through the chamber. "Nonetheless," said Elder Quan, one of the few voices of caution among the Federation's leadership, "standard protocol requires observation. We should establish a monitoring post in their system." Xerax waved a crystalline limb. "As you wish, Elder, though I fear it will be a boring assignment for whoever draws the duty." That had been 15 years ago. The monitoring post, a cloaked satellite in a distant orbit around Jupiter, had diligently collected data about Earth and transmitted regular reports back to Federation space. The reports were filed away, rarely read by anyone with authority, and Earth continued its existence, completely unaware of the galactic civilization that had already judged and dismissed it. What the Federation couldn't understand, was that humanity's relative isolation in the cosmos had shaped them differently than any other species in the Federation. Humanity had evolved through constant competition, not just with nature, but with itself. Nations had risen and fallen, ideologies had clashed, and the technological development that other species had achieved through peaceful, unified progress, humans had achieved through conflict and rivalry. In the quiet laboratories of Earth's nations, technologies were being developed not to impress or to further the species, but to gain advantage over other humans. And in this competitive environment, innovation flourished in ways the Federation had never experienced. While the Federation's monitoring station watched Earth's public space programs with mild amusement, it failed to detect the classified military installations buried deep beneath mountains and under ocean floors. While it tracked the movement of conventional armies and navies, it missed the quantum computing centers developing artificial intelligence far beyond what the Federation believed possible at Earth's technological level. Behind closed doors, Earth's most brilliant minds worked tirelessly, driven by the age-old human fear that they were not alone in the universe, and that whatever was out there might not be friendly. Dr. Elena Vasquez stood in the control room of the hyperspace weapons platform, a facility hidden 2 kilometers beneath the Nevada desert. Around her, dozens of technicians monitored banks of quantum computers and experimental equipment. On the main screen before her was a simulation of their latest test, a weapon that could tear open the fabric of space-time itself. "The results are consistent," said Dr. Marcus Chen, her chief physicist. "We've successfully created a localized distortion in space-time that lasted for 3.4 seconds. That's twice as long as our previous attempt." Elena nodded, her dark eyes serious. And the energy requirements? Reduced by 30%. The new containment field is much more efficient. What neither of them knew was that this technology, what humans called experimental physics, was something the Federation had abandoned millennia ago as too dangerous and unpredictable. While the Federation had developed superior conventional weapons, they had deliberately avoided certain paths of research. Humans, driven by their competitive nature, had no such reservations. Similar scenes played out in secret facilities around the globe. In Russia, a team developed plasma shields that could deflect energy weapons the humans didn't even know existed yet. In China, scientists perfected neural interfaces that could link human minds directly to machines, creating reaction times no alien species had ever achieved. In India, nanotechnology was advancing at a pace that would have alarmed the Federation's Security Council if they'd been paying attention. But they weren't. The monitoring station dutifully recorded Earth's public broadcasts, its open scientific publications, its visible military exercises. The Federation's analysts saw only what humanity wanted the world to see, not what was hidden beneath. The fatal miscalculation came when a Federation survey ship, charting resources in the outer reaches of Earth's solar system, detected unusual energy signatures coming from several locations on the planet. According to their instruments, these readings shouldn't have been possible from a civilization at Earth's level of development. Captain Threll, a six-limbed arthropoid with gleaming black exoskeleton, decided to investigate more closely, bringing his ship into high orbit around Earth to conduct detailed scans, breaking the Federation's non-interference protocols in the process. The ship's cloaking technology should have rendered it invisible to Earth's primitive detection systems. It did not. Deep in the mountain headquarters of Earth's Unified Space Command, General Diana Washington received the alert from their quantum detection array. "Ma'am, we've got an unknown object in orbit. Mass approximately 30,000 tons. No heat signature, no electromagnetic emissions, but our gravity sensors are picking it up clear as day." Washington's face remained impassive, but her heart rate quickened. For decades, Earth's governments had prepared for this moment in secret. They had known they weren't alone. The quantum detection arrays had occasionally picked up distortions consistent with advanced propulsion systems at the edges of the solar system. But this was different. This was close. This was deliberate. "Initiate first contact protocol," she said calmly, "and alert all defensive stations to stand by." Throughout the solar system, hidden installations powered up. In the asteroid belt, stealth platforms armed with directed energy weapons silently oriented toward Earth orbit. On the dark side of the moon, massive hangar doors opened, revealing squadrons of spacecraft no human news organization had ever reported on. And in deep underground bunkers on Earth, quantum computers calculated targeting solutions for weapons the Federation had no knowledge of. Captain Threll's science officer reported the findings with excitement. "Captain, these energy readings are consistent with early quantum field manipulation. These humans are more advanced than our reports indicated, but still centuries away from being a concern. Their theoretical understanding is impressive, but they lack the practical applications." Threll contemplated the blue planet filling his view screen. "Interesting. Perhaps we should revise their classification. They might reach emergence stage within a century rather than the projected 300 years. The science officer's mandibles clicked in agreement. Still, they've shown remarkable aggression in their development history. The Council might want to consider intervention protocols before they become a problem. Threll's compound eyes shifted to his tactical display. "Prepare a full planetary scan. Let's see exactly what we're dealing with." The Federation ship's powerful sensors began an intensive scan of Earth, penetrating deep into the planet's crust, mapping every military installation, every power source, every technological center. The scan itself released enough energy to disrupt communications across much of the hemisphere facing the ship. In the Unified Space Command Center, screens flickered as the alien scan swept over them. "They're scanning us," reported the sensor officer. "Full spectrum, Extremely powerful. Our shielded facilities are holding, but they're getting readings from everything else. General Washington's expression hardened. They've initiated hostile action by interfering with our systems. We are authorized to respond under First Contact Protocol Section 7. She picked up a secure phone and spoke 5 words. Black Knight. I confirm execution. Throughout the solar system, humanity's hidden defenses activated. From the moon, 12 sleek spacecraft launched, their hulls covered in light-absorbing material that made them nearly invisible against the backdrop of space. From Earth, specially designed missiles, not nuclear, but something far more sophisticated, streaked upward. On the Federation ship, the first warning came too late. Captain. Multiple objects approaching at high velocity. Threll's head snapped up in surprise. Impossible. Their tracking systems shouldn't be able to detect us. They're not using conventional tracking systems, the tactical officer reported, his voice rising in pitch. They appear to be using some form of quantum detection we've never encountered before. Raise shields. Threll ordered. Prepare tow. The first of Earth's weapons reached the ship before he could finish his sentence. It wasn't designed to explode. It carried something far more insidious. As it impacted against the Federation ship's shields, it released a pulse of energy that operated on principles the aliens had never encountered, principles that Earth's scientists had developed in secret over decades. The ship's shields, designed to repel conventional energy and matter, did nothing to stop this weapon. The pulse passed through them, as if they weren't there. And when it reached the ship's hull, it created a momentary quantum distortion that rippled through the vessel's systems. Alarms blared as the ship's power systems fluctuated wildly. What's happening? Threll demanded. Unknown, Captain. His engineer responded frantically. Some form of quantum field disruption. Our antimatter containment fields are destabilizing. Before Threll could process this information, the small fleet of Earth spacecraft arrived, surrounding his vessel. They were primitive by Federation standards, chemical rockets assisted by rudimentary ion drives, but they carried weapons unlike anything in the Federation's arsenal. Captain, we're being hailed, the communications officer reported in disbelief. Put it through, Threll ordered, still trying to comprehend how these primitives had detected his ship, let alone disabled its systems. A human face appeared on the view screen. General Washington, her expression stern but composed. Alien vessel, this is General Diana Washington of Earth's Unified Space Command. You have entered Earth orbit without permission and conducted hostile scanning operations against our planet. Your vessel is now surrounded, and your primary power systems have been compromised. You will power down all remaining weapons and prepare to be boarded, or we will be forced to destroy your ship. You have 2 minutes to comply. Threll stared at the screen in utter disbelief. This wasn't possible. A pre-emergent civilization shouldn't have the capability to detect his ship, let alone disable it. Yet here they were, these humans, these supposedly primitive beings, dictating terms to a Federation captain. As the human ships maintained their position around his vessel, with more approaching from Earth and the Moon, Captain Threll made the only decision he could. He complied with their demands. The Federation's first official contact with humanity did not go as they had imagined. Instead of arriving as advanced beings to guide a primitive species, they found themselves outmaneuvered and captured by a civilization they had gravely underestimated. And this was only the beginning of the Federation's miscalculation regarding Earth and its warriors. The tide turns. News of Captain Threll's capture spread through the Federation like wildfire. Emergency sessions of the Council were convened. Military commanders were summoned from across the galaxy, and the monitoring data on Earth, so long ignored and dismissed, was suddenly the most important information in Federation databases. In the Grand Chamber on Centaurus Prime, the atmosphere was tense. High Chancellor Xerax's crystalline form pulsed with agitated patterns of light as he addressed the Council. "This is unprecedented," he said, his voice lacking its usual calm resonance. Captain Threll's ship has been captured by a pre-emergent species that, by all our observations, should not possess technology capable of detecting a cloaked Federation vessel, let alone disabling its systems. Strategos Vex, who had dismissed Earth so casually 15 years earlier, now stood before a holographic display showing the planet and the positions of the hastily assembled Federation fleet at the edge of the solar system. The reports from Threll's captured ship indicate that the humans are using forms of quantum manipulation we have not encountered before, she said, her reptilian features set in a grim expression. Their weapons do not rely on conventional physics as we understand it. They have somehow developed technologies along completely different lines than any species we have encountered. Elder Quan, who had advocated for observation rather than dismissal years ago, spoke with quiet authority. Perhaps we should consider diplomatic contact rather than military response. If these humans have developed such capabilities independently, they could be valuable allies. Vex's cybernetic eye glowed brighter. After they captured one of our ships, after they demonstrated aggressive capabilities that they must have been developing in secret for decades. No, Elder, we cannot risk allowing such an unpredictable species to join the galactic community. They must be contained. Xerax's light patterns shifted to a more somber hue. The Council must vote. Do we attempt diplomatic contact with Earth, or do we demonstrate the true might of the Federation and bring them to heel? The vote was not close. Fear had taken hold among the Council members. Fear of the unknown. Fear of a species that had developed along lines they didn't understand. Fear of humanity's well-documented history of internal warfare being turned outward toward the stars. Within hours, the Federation fleet was given its orders: neutralize Earth's unexpected defensive capabilities and force the planet's surrender. The humans would be contained, their dangerous technologies confiscated, and their development closely supervised from that point forward. Strategos Vex personally took command of the operation, her flagship leading a fleet of 200 warships as they accelerated toward the inner solar system. Their antimatter drives flared like miniature suns as they pushed to combat speed, confident in their overwhelming firepower and numerical superiority. The Federation had never lost a war. They had never even lost a significant battle against a newly contacted species. Their technological advantage had always been insurmountable, their military doctrine perfected over thousands of years of occasional conflict. As the fleet approached Mars orbit, Vex addressed her commanders via holographic conference. We know the humans have some unusual quantum-based weapons and detection systems, but their space combat capabilities remain limited. Their ships are few, slow, and poorly armed by our standards. They succeeded against Captain Threll only because of surprise and his violation of protocols. We will not make the same mistake. She displayed a tactical hologram showing their planned approach. We will divide into 3 battle groups. Alpha Group will target their orbital infrastructure and space vessels. Beta Group will neutralize their planetary defense systems. Gamma Group will remain in reserve, ready to reinforce either group as needed. Once their defenses are down, we will demand unconditional surrender. The commanders acknowledged their orders, and the Federation fleet split into its assigned groups, spreading out to encompass Earth in a 3-dimensional encirclement. Their sensors detected the small human defense fleet moving to intercept them, barely 50 vessels, most of them appearing to be hastily armed transport ships rather than dedicated warcraft. On the bridge of her flagship, Vex allowed herself a moment of satisfaction. Whatever surprises these humans had managed against Threll, they were clearly outmatched here. The battle would be brief and decisive. All ships, commence the attack, she ordered. Show these primitives the true meaning of advanced warfare. The Federation's Alpha Group accelerated toward Earth's defensive line, weapons powering up. Massive energy cannons capable of vaporizing mountains locked onto the approaching human vessels. Missile systems loaded with antimatter warheads prepared to fire. It would be over in minutes. But as the Federation ships came within firing range, something unexpected happened. The human vessels, which had been moving in a conventional formation, suddenly scattered in all directions, their engines flaring with unexpected power. At the same time, the Federation's sensors detected hundreds of new contacts appearing seemingly from nowhere, small, stealthy craft emerging from hidden positions throughout the solar system. Ambush. Vex's tactical officer shouted. Additional human vessels decloaking on all sides. Vex's reptilian features contorted in shock. Impossible. They don't have cloaking technology. Not like ours, the officer replied frantically. They're using some form of quantum state manipulation. Our sensors read them as part of the background radiation until they shifted state. Before Vex could process this information, the human vessels opened fire. But they didn't use conventional weapons. There were no energy beams, no missiles streaking through space. Instead, invisible pulses of quantum distortion rippled outward, passing through the Federation ship's shields, as if they weren't there. On ship after ship, critical systems began failing. Antimatter containment fields fluctuated. Navigation systems went offline. Weapons lost power. The carefully choreographed Federation attack dissolved into chaos. What are they doing to our ships? Vex demanded, watching as her tactical display showed Federation vessels going dark or veering off course. They're targeting our quantum field matrices, her science officer explained, voice tight with stress. Every advanced system we have relies on stable quantum fields. Our antimatter containment, our faster-than-light communications, our targeting systems. They've developed weapons specifically designed to disrupt those fields. Vex slammed a clawed hand on her command console. How? How did they even know to target those systems? We've had no extended contact with them. The answer, which would only become clear later, was simple. They hadn't known. Humans had developed these weapons to use against each other, in the constant competition between Earth's nations. They had explored avenues of quantum physics that the Federation had abandoned millennia ago as too unpredictable and dangerous. And in doing so, they had inadvertently created the perfect weapons against the very foundation of Federation technology. As the battle in space raged, General Washington stood in Earth's unified command center, watching the tactical displays with intense concentration. Around her, military officers from nations that had been enemies mere months ago worked together seamlessly, coordinating Earth's defense. Alpha Squadron reports 14 enemy capital ships disabled, reported the U.S. Air Force colonel manning the communication station. Russian quantum group has disrupted the enemy's western flank. Indian and Chinese space forces are engaging their southern approach. Washington nodded, her expression betraying nothing of the tension she felt. Earth had prepared for this moment, but the scale of the alien fleet had exceeded even their worst-case scenarios. They were holding their own for now, but the battle was far from over. "What about their command ship?" she asked. "Still operational," the tactical officer reported. "Their flagship appears to have more robust shielding against our quantum disruptors. It's continuing to coordinate their forces." Washington studied the display showing the massive alien vessel at the center of their formation. "Then that's our primary target. Prepare the Trinity device." A hush fell over the command center. The Trinity device was Earth's ultimate weapon, a technology so experimental, so potentially devastating, that it had never been tested at full power. "Ma'am," the tactical officer said quietly, "we don't know what effect the Trinity will have at that range. The simulation models suggest it could create a quantum disruption extending well beyond the target area." "I'm aware of the risks," Washington replied, her voice steady. "But we need to end this battle decisively. If we allow it to become a war of attrition, Earth will eventually fall. The Trinity is our best chance to demonstrate our capability in a way they cannot ignore." She picked up a secure phone and entered a complex authorization code. "This is General Washington. Authorization to deploy Trinity device confirmed. Target: enemy command vessel." From a hidden facility on the moon, a small, unremarkable probe launched silently. It carried no conventional weapons, no explosives, not even a significant power source. What it contained was something far more potent, a device that could temporarily alter the quantum state of a localized area of spacetime. As the probe accelerated toward the Federation flagship, it remained undetected by their conventional sensors. Their attention was focused on the more visible threats, the human vessels firing their disruptor weapons, the missile salvos being launched from Earth. On her flagship, Strategos Vex struggled to regain control of the battle. Half her fleet was experiencing critical systems failures, and the human attacks continued without pause. Her tactical officers reported that the humans were using a multi-layered defense strategy unlike anything in Federation records. Instead of concentrating their forces, they operated in small, independent units that targeted specific vulnerabilities, then disengaged before they could be effectively counterattacked. "This is not how primitives fight," Vex muttered, reviewing the tactical displays. "Their battle doctrine is more advanced than their technology should allow." What she didn't understand, what none of the Federation strategists understood, was that humanity's approach to warfare had been forged through thousands of years of fighting other humans, while the Federation had developed its military doctrine against species with similar approaches. Humans had evolved their strategies against the most dangerous opponent possible, themselves. The Trinity probe reached its designated position near the Federation flagship, undetected in the chaos of battle. Once in position, it activated. There was no explosion, no visible beam of energy. One moment, space around the Federation flagship appeared normal. The next, a sphere approximately 5 kilometers in diameter simply changed. Within this sphere, the rules of quantum physics temporarily shifted to a different state. On the flagship, the effect was catastrophic. Every system depended on normal quantum interactions, from the ship's artificial gravity to its antimatter engines to the neural implants in Vex's cybernetic components, suddenly operated according to different rules. Equipment exploded, power conduits ruptured, and the carefully regulated antimatter containment fields collapsed, releasing their deadly contents into the ship's engineering sections. Vex felt her cybernetic systems burning within her body as they tried to operate in an environment where the fundamental forces they relied on had changed. She collapsed to the deck, barely conscious, as emergency alarms blared around her. What have they done?" she gasped, as her officers frantically tried to regain control of the dying ship. The flagship's second-in-command, seeing his commander incapacitated and the ship's systems failing catastrophically, made the only decision he could. He ordered the emergency evacuation of all surviving crew and transmitted a general retreat order to the remaining Federation fleet. As escape pods launched from the stricken flagship, the Federation vessels that still had functioning engines began to withdraw, accelerating away from Earth as quickly as their damaged systems would allow. The mighty armada that had arrived so confidently was now in full retreat, leaving behind dozens of disabled vessels drifting in space. In Earth's command center, General Washington watched the Federation forces retreating on the tactical display. The Trinity device had worked better than anyone had dared hope, creating a temporary quantum state change that had crippled the enemy command ship without spreading beyond the targeted area. "They're running," the tactical officer confirmed, his voice tight with controlled excitement. "All enemy vessels capable of movement are withdrawing from the solar system." Washington allowed herself a small smile. "Track them to the edge of the system. Make sure they're actually leaving, not regrouping." She turned to her communications officer. "And send a message to their disabled vessels. Inform them that we will provide rescue for their crew, but their ships are now the property of Earth United Command." Across the solar system, Earth's forces began the process of securing the disabled Federation ships. These vessels, with their advanced technology, would provide humanity with generations' worth of technological insights, accelerating Earth's development far beyond what would have been possible otherwise. In the Federation Council chambers weeks later, the mood was somber as Strategos Vex, supported by medical devices that replaced her failed cybernetics, delivered her report on the disastrous Earth campaign. "We underestimated them," she said, her voice weak but determined. "Not just their technology, but their approach to warfare. They think differently than we do. They fight differently. They have developed along lines we never anticipated. High Chancellor Xerax's crystalline form remained dim, his internal lights subdued in the Federation's expression of mourning. The cost has been tremendous. 37 ships lost, over 15,000 personnel dead or captured. And for what? To confirm what we now know, that Earth cannot be subjugated by conventional means. Elder Quan, who had advocated for diplomacy from the beginning, spoke gently. Perhaps now we should consider a different approach. The humans have sent us a message through their treatment of our captured personnel. They have provided medical care, respected their rights, and offered to return them in exchange for formal recognition and non-aggression agreements. Xerax turned to the Elder. You suggest we negotiate with them as equals. I suggest, Quan replied, that we acknowledge reality. They have earned their place among the stars through their own ingenuity. We can either accept them as potential allies or face them as determined enemies. The choice seems clear to me. In the end, the Federation had no real choice. Their attempt to subjugate Earth had failed catastrophically, revealing vulnerabilities in their technology they hadn't known existed. The humans, rather than being destroyed or intimidated, had emerged stronger. Now in possession of Federation ships and technology, they could study and adapt. 6 months after the battle, a formal delegation from Earth arrived at Centaurus Prime aboard a hybrid vessel combining human quantum technology with adapted Federation systems. They came not as supplicants, but as equals, ready to negotiate Earth's entry into the galactic community on their own terms. As the human representatives entered the council chambers, the assembled delegates from across the Federation watched with a mixture of curiosity, respect, and thinly veiled apprehension. These humans, these warriors from a small blue planet at the edge of the galaxy, had done what no other species had managed in 10,000 years. They had defeated a Federation fleet and forced the mightiest civilization in the known galaxy to recognize them as equals. General Washington, now serving as Earth's diplomatic representative, stood before the council, her posture straight, her gaze steady. "We come in peace," she began, using the traditional human greeting that now carried new weight in the galactic community. "But we have demonstrated that we are capable of defending ourselves if that peace is threatened. Earth seeks friendship and cooperation with the peoples of the Federation, but we will never surrender our independence or our right to develop according to our own path." High Chancellor Xerax's crystalline form shimmered as he responded. "The Federation acknowledges Earth as a sovereign power and welcomes its representatives to this council. We have much to learn from each other, it seems." As the formal proceedings began, the truth that had forever changed the balance of power in the galaxy hung unspoken in the air. The Federation had made a grave mistake in underestimating Earth and its warriors. It was a mistake the galaxy would not make again.